Hello and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Osceola Seminole Sidelines. My name is Pat Burnham, and I am joined in our first segment today by Nick Carlisle. Nick, you have had a busy day, and we've all had interesting days. We'll get into that a little bit later. But you've had a busy day. You started out at the Moore Center about 8:30, and you've been covering the portal activity, and there's been some of it this week. And we got some good news. We'll get right to it on that. Florida State got a commitment from Rutgers offensive tackle Jalen Matthews. I think you've talked to him now, right?
We haven't talked to him yet. He's been Bob might have gotten him by now, but he entered the building this morning with Josh Raymond, who's also on his visit, and has not appeared since. But obviously, the work's already done since he is now officially signed with Florida State. So.
Yeah, and he did confirm that with us, with me this morning. But he is 4 years of eligibility remaining, right?
Or 5? Yes, sir. So he's got all. I mean, he was at Rutgers for all of 15 spring practices. Okay. So he's got 5 years to play for.
Okay. So he's basically going to be coming here as a true freshman with a little bit of knowledge of what college football is like after 13 days. It'll make his transition possibly a little bit quicker. But listen, we've talked about this before. As many offensive linemen as Florida State's going to have to replace after the season, maybe taking a college kid early in his career in the portal might help with this transition. But certainly a kid that was, if you watch this film on Huddle, very athletic, on the offensive and defensive line. You can really see his ability to move on defense. So, listen, I think it's a good take, obviously, because he is a young kid. He's a little bit more physically developed because he has been in school for a semester and gone through some off-season conditioning at the college level, spring football at the major college level. And listen, as we all know, if it doesn't work out a year from now, he could be in the portal again. So you bring him in. He's a big body, 6'7". I think he was about 315 on high school. I know I talked to the Rutgers guy, Rutgers Rivals guy earlier today, and he had mentioned that the kid had gotten up to about 350 when he entered Rutgers. So obviously had gotten bigger for whatever reason. But listen, if you watch this film on Huddle, Jalen Matthews, he is a big athletic kid. Have you had a chance to watch his film, Nick?
I have not, but just from a pure size and athletic standpoint, to say I watched all of his film, I haven't. I've watched a couple of clips, so I've seen a couple of clips, but I don't consider that fully breaking down and watching the film, of course. But yeah, from an athletic standpoint, I mean, this is a body type and that Florida State doesn't really have, especially in the offensive line prospects that they brought in the most recent class. And let's be honest, Pat, if we're going to consider this anything, just consider him a 2025 signee that got here a little bit late. So I like the take from that perspective because apart from Mario Nash, with all due respect to guys that haven't gotten here, like Sean Perret or Chaston Brown, who, to be frank, I don't know how much they would have factored into the program anyway. You feel good about taking a kid like this that has the athletic upside, clearly has a body type that Florida State doesn't really have, and he has all of his eligibility. Yeah. Now, although there's an argument to say, well, you probably want somebody that may be able to help you out more this year, considering how important this year is. That's where somebody like Jalen Caldwell, who could potentially come in later this week, the Grand Valley State transfer, where that kind of guy might help you. But as far as just in a microscope, what this take would be for Florida State, it's a decent enough take. It's just, I guess the only red flag would be, why did he leave Rutgers so early? If there was an outstanding issue there that may have pushed him into the portal, because it's becoming more and more common in college football these days for kids to leave schools a little bit early, but one spring is still it's a little bit of a red flag.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a red flag, and if my source at Rutgers is correct, obviously putting on that much weight is not probably good if you've done that between your end of your senior year and the time you report. Now, listen, that was from somebody that might have might be upset that the kid left Rutgers, right? So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But you did mention Jalen Caldwell from Grand Valley State, and we are still expecting him in town, correct?
Yes, we're still expecting him in town. I don't know if, like some of the other recruitments that we've seen out of the portal, if that's contingent on whether or not they take other people ahead of him. I don't know how many more. Frankly, I don't know how many more roster spots Florida State has open. And I don't even think Mike Norvell knows how many roster spots he has open, considering his comments earlier today on the whole house settlement deal. But it'll be interesting to see whether Josh Raymond commits to Florida State later today or not. I have no intel or feeling on that one as of right now, but let's assume that, hey, Raymond does commit to Florida State, or maybe he takes a couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised if Caldwell's visit is contingent on whether or not they take another offensive lineman.
Yeah, I think that could be right. And I think obviously, I think the other part of that could be, Nick, all right, so is this if it's a Raymond or Caldwell thing, Caldwell's going to be at Missouri before he comes to Florida State. Does he make it past that visit?
I think he's there right now, actually.
Yeah, is this an either or type of thing? Because obviously out of those two players, Caldwell is the most experienced, having 2 years at the Division III level. But the question is, can he make the transition? Obviously, Kentucky thinks so, Florida State thinks so, and Missouri thinks so. So, and right now we're going to give obviously Herb Hand the benefit of the doubt, right? Because we have a lot of respect for what he's done and what his reputation is
Snapchat's going off a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what you're laughing at. I see it out of the corner of my eye.
I am. If just so you know what we're laughing at, there's a lot going on today in the Rivals Network. We just found out on social media that we were on 3 is buying Rivals in a conjunction with Yahoo, and there's all kind of activity going on Twitter and on our office on the Osceola staff chat group. So it's funny. This is live television. We're reacting to live news as we get it from Shannon Terry and others. But all right, so that could be an either or thing. We'll see about how that works out with Caldwell and the kid from Wake Forest. Vandy. And listen, we know the kid from Vandy has been seen by Florida State, by Herb Hand before, because he's an Orlando kid. They're familiar with him. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Do you bring in both of those kids? Do you bring in one? Let's talk about who's not leaving. We got twice baked biscuits. Biscuit has been in the portal twice at Florida State, including about 4 days ago, and decided to come back. This one's interesting to me. I know Mike put a smile on his face when he talked about it today with the media. I'm excited to have him back. We have a chance to have a dynamic tight end room. Listen, that this whole thing has been weird to me. Clearly, he, in my opinion, was not happy with what his role was going to be in this offense. I said Wednesday, I thought it was strange that he would put practice highlights on his Twitter, because he should have people coming to him as opposed to him trying to reach people with video. Certainly having his body in the room will help, because he is a guy that can block at the point of attack. We'll see how well he can do that in the spring and then the next fall. But I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing for Florida State. I still think they should have been making tight end a priority in the portal already. I don't think this is that dynamic a room. I don't agree with Mike. I think they'll be better in a pass catching capacity because of Pittman from UCF, and we know that Lofton's more of a receiver type body at this point. But yeah, I think it was. Listen, you only got 4 scholarship bodies in that room. They're all more one-dimensional players than they are two-dimensional players. I don't want to make it sound like it's vitally important that they got it back, but because of where they are in that room, I think it's a good thing that Marquiston stayed at Florida State. Whether he should have gotten the portal and tested the waters or not, listen, it's just where we are, right?
Yeah, and to be completely honest with you, the names that I heard rumors of who they might be pursuing in the portal once Marquiston went in, which Florida State earlier today was pretty coy about whether or not he officially went in or not. They're saying that he didn't, that he never officially went in, which of course, Mark Houston, to your point, was posting clips on Twitter. So I think he fully intended to go in and all that. It was very, very weird. But I truly don't, as much as Florida State fans may hate the fact that maybe Mike and the staff were so able and willing to let him back in after he tried to leave a second time. The reality is you're trying to build the best roster that you possibly can in one of the most vital years of your tenure here. Yep. And I don't think that they would have gotten anybody out of the portal that A, match the body type of Marquise Douglas, B, match the experience of Douglas, and would have had all of that like on-field tangible experience that he has. So does it hurt a little bit, or is it kind of a kick in the nuts, so to speak, to have to take somebody back after he tried to leave you for a second time? I'm sure. And I certainly don't what's the word I'm looking for? I don't blame Florida State fans for feeling that way, but when it comes down to building the best roster that you can, this room is better off having Marquise Douglas than it is not having Marquise Douglas.
Yeah, I agree. And I understand the fans' frustration, but it is the nature of the beast. These kids can entertain the portal, and most of them do to some extent, and he did. I think it was a little bit more – I'm not sure it was official, but when you start putting your practice film on Twitter for people to watch and evaluate, certainly you're giving it serious consideration. Now, whether he was in the portal or not, he's a graduate. He may not have had to be in the portal, right? I think he's graduated already. I think he's got a degree. So once you do that, the portal timeline doesn't matter. You can go in the portal anytime you want once you're a grad. So, but yeah, listen, you worry about his buy-in. You weren't worried about the ripple effects it has in the locker room, but this is something that people are just going to have to get used to. Does it make it right? No. Does it mean we have to like it? No, but it is what it is. And that's about the best way I can put it. And listen, you need that fourth body in that room. And he has made big plays for Florida State in the past, scored a touchdown, I believe, in the Cheez-It Bowl against Oklahoma on a little unbalanced formation. Nice play call by Mike back then. So nothing you do about it.
And look, sorry to interrupt, but like you may get to a situation in August and when camp goes where you realize, well, maybe we didn't need him like that. Maybe, and I mentioned this last show, maybe Randy Pittman and Landon Thomas invest enough to be able to become a little bit more versatile in the game to where they can more dominantly play in those run heavy sets and so on. And, you may look at it down the road and say, well, maybe we didn't need him as much as we thought we did, but you would rather have him than not have him at the end of the day. Yeah. So it's one of those things that, as I said a couple of times, you're trying to build the best team that you can. Yeah. And that's ultimately what it comes down to, especially for Mike and this staff who are trying to make a really quick turnaround.
Yeah, they need a quick turnaround. There's no doubt about that. All right, so we still got Miles Mitchell from Dartmouth coming in this week from Monmouth. I don't know why I said Dartmouth, but defensive end from Monmouth is still coming this weekend as far as we know. I have reached out to Miles, have not heard back. I've tried to see if he's visiting anywhere else. I got to think that he is. I just don't know where that is. Have you had any luck tracking that down?
I can't remember if he's visited somewhere else already. All these kids are starting to blur together. Yeah. I don't think he's visited anywhere else. Hold on. Let me see real quick if you want to just fill some airtime.
And one guy that we know is potentially coming in for a visit is Jacoby Thomas, a safety from Tennessee. Miami is involved. Listen, he did not have – he was more of a backup role at Tennessee last year, but I think that Florida State does need to bring in another safety. I've been saying that for a while now. Now, he was not able to start at Tennessee. He had 22 tackles in 13 games, but he was a very good player at Middle Tennessee, where his head coach was Rick Stockstill. In fact, in 2023, Jacoby Thomas had 71 tackles. He had about, I think, 30 or 40 the year before that. So he played for 2 years for Rick Stockstill. Now, Miami, it seems, has just gotten about everybody they've had on campus in the portal. But I really think that Florida State has a chance with Jacoby because of that relationship that he has with Rick Stockstill, who he committed to out of high school and played for at least 2 years, 2022 and 2023. and he has 1 year of eligibility remaining. We have not been able to nail down when he's going to be on campus, only that he is expected to be, and that Florida State and Miami are both involved with Tennessee safety Jacoby Thomas.
Yeah, it's one of those that's kind of back and forth in terms of where he's going to be first. It seems like it's going to be Miami first and Florida State second, and it's up in the air in terms of whether or not he makes it to campus. Obviously, we're expecting him tomorrow. Does that visit happen? Does it not? Really up in the air. I can't say at this point. It's the portal is one of those things where a visit is never truly on. It seems like until they actually get there. And there's a couple of kids like that Florida State is still pursuing, which we'll get into, that who may or may not get on campus, and the date that we're expecting him on campus has kind of bounced around a little bit.
Yeah. Well, one kid we know they're not going to get back on campus, and we alluded to it on Wednesday. Derek Ray was right; he's not coming back, and that is, he told you on Wednesday that Tony Johnson was not coming back on campus. We thought it was for that day. Now what we know is that Cincinnati wide receiver Tony Johnson has committed to Miami, so he will not be the receiver that Florida State needs to add to this roster after the attrition they had in the spring portal with Jordan Scott and Jalen Brown and Hakeem Williams, who I believe is now committed to Colorado. I think we might have covered that on Wednesday. I know we were going back and forth, Nick. We know that Florida State had reached out to Rutgers linebacker Mohamed Torre. He has visits at Miami and Penn State. You got some interesting information on what you've learned about him and what kind of may lead. I know you're reading the tea leaves. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, no. So originally, when I was told that he was going to Penn State for a visit and not Miami, I thought that meant that he canceled his Miami visit entirely. And now it looks like either he reset that visit or they just swapped visit dates. I think Penn State still sits in a really good position for this kid. He's got familial ties there with his younger brother. But Miami, I think he's going to hear Miami out as well. His former defensive coordinator at Rutgers is down there in Miami now, so there is a connection on staff there with him. Florida State may get a visit tomorrow or Friday. That's kind of the other kid that I was alluding to in terms of, is he coming? Is he not coming? Is he coming this day or is he coming another day? That's one of those that's kind of up in the air as well, just kind of depending on whether or not Penn State can actually wrap this up, whether or not he makes it to Miami, and if that connection, the connection rather between him and the defensive coordinator is as strong as you would think that it would be, whether or not he leaves that Miami visit without committing or not. So one of those that are up in the air. Again, linebacker isn't necessarily the biggest position of need for Florida State right now, so I wouldn't be too distraught over it if he doesn't wind up on campus.
Yeah, listen, the reality of this kid has not played since 2023. He missed all of last season with a knee injury. It's the second time in 3 years he's missed an entire season. Listen, people come back from ACLs all the time. 30 years ago when I blew my ACL twice out in 14 months, I was done. These guys come back from those type of things today because of technology and rehab and all the things that we know about science and medicine. So, listen, I think that, he was a productive player in 2023 for Rutgers. Clearly, I think Florida State would like to add some depth at linebacker. We'll see what happens. And you're right, with these when these kids start talking about official visits in the portal, if they they're not just going to take all three if they made their decision after the first visit, right? So
yeah,
we'll see if he gets here. Now, a kid that I mentioned last week that Florida State was in communication with, Gavin Blackwell, a wide receiver from North Carolina. We found out yesterday that he is scheduled to visit Florida State, I believe, this weekend. I think this shows you they definitely, with Gavin Blackwell, think they need depth at wide receiver because, listen, he's only had 13 catches in 15 games over the last 2 seasons at North Carolina, so far from a proven commodity. I know that's the way Mike and the staff are trying to go and go more through the portal for more of a proven production over potential. And this guy kind of slides back into that potential. category. But listen, they've got to have some bodies, right? I mean, right now
Yeah.
you're looking at a very thin receiving core. We'll see if Gavin makes it here. I'm not sure who else he's involved with. I have tried to find out. There's been very little on where Gavin's going to visit outside of Florida State. Anybody else we need to talk about in the portal, Nick?
Not off the top of my head. Oh, there have been some rumors that Florida State may get Oklahoma running back transfer Sawchuk. I think is his first name Gavin.
Yeah, I believe that.
There are rumors that he may show up on campus this weekend.
Right.
I've been trying to track that down and confirm it. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it or not. But if he does, and that rumor ends up being true, it would be this weekend that he shows up on campus. So that which is interesting because traditionally the running back room is one that you consider to be okay in terms of what they have, and obviously they have Usman Kroma coming in the summer, which Florida State's really high on. But it's interesting. Maybe they feel like they need a little bit more production at the top end in terms of their running back room. So I found that to be an interesting one. So he may show up on campus. I'm still trying to track that down with all that we got going on. So obviously updates on the Osceola Village in our spring portal tracker thread once I'm able to confirm that.
Yeah, well, and going back to Mike talked a little bit about the two portal kids that have signed, Jeremiah Wilson and Jalen King. Now, one of the things that he did say, they saw Jalen in a camp. Now, I don't remember whether it was in a camp at Florida State or when Mike first got here. They did some mega camps at other schools, like I think they went to USF or FAU. So he mentioned they'd seen Jalen King in camp before. He did say that ideally they would like to redshirt him, and ideally that the kid would like to be redshirted. He's got some improvement to do, Mike said, but he did say, listen, last 2 years we've used all three scholarship quarterbacks, so he felt like they needed to be deeper. So now you got 4 scholarship quarterbacks at Florida State. Mike did say one of the highlights of the spring was the quarterback room in its entirety. Yes. By the way, Nick, since Kurt and Bob have not popped on, you are now here for what he said, what we heard as we transition into what Mike Norvell said. And this is what Mike said about Jalen King. So sorry, folks, we're a little bit discombobulated right now because Nick is supposed to be going back to.
Let's see if we can rectify this on the live television here.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So we'll get into what he said, what we heard. Now, we've heard Mike talk about this a lot. He wanted to see an edge from this football team. He reiterated again today that he thought he saw that. He was very happy with the edge that the players showed in the spring. It was very much coach speak. Said we got a great glimpse of what this team can be. We've heard him say things like that in the past. I'm going to be honest with you, since we only saw him once, I don't know what to make of that. I know what I think, that they're going to be better at quarterback. Their starting offensive line is going to be better. Their tight end room will have a more dynamic receiver in Randy Pittman. He did mention that Roy Dale Williams has made major steps, although he did miss some time. I think they are critically thin at receiver. We did not get to see any of who we determined to be the 3 starting receivers in Deuce Robinson and Squirrel Wright, who were both out. LaWayne McCoy was out that day. Jaylen Brown was out that day. He is no longer part of the team. So I do think there's a great glimpse of, I think we got we got a small glimpse of where they made some improvement. I don't know. He got a great glimpse of it. He said he felt this football team, and he continually talk about, I want to feel their presence on the practice field. I want to feel the intensity. I want to feel the physicality. So clearly it seems like, based on everything he said, that he certainly felt like this was a more physical team than last year's team, because I don't ever remember talking about we need to fill this team, this, that, and the other. He also said that he thought this team responded well. Yeah, they had a really tough practice in practice number 10 and was very happy with practice number 11 and 12, which I think were the back-to-back day practices, including a goal line scrimmage day. Also alluded to the fact that they were probably going to sign a few more portal players. We've obviously covered that ground for you. I don't think we need to give you any more names than we already have. He didn't mention the defense hardly at all. I will tell you what we saw on the defense the day we were there. Obviously, and just to Gus's comments that he made during the spring, it's an unconventional defense. They are going to show you a lot of fronts, a lot of looks, a lot of coverages. So it will be interesting to see what we see in the fall. But, we saw a very active linebacker in Elijah Herring. You've got a proven commodity, at least from a depth standpoint, in Stephon Thomas, who started for Tony White at Syracuse, the backup last year at Nebraska. And listen, I do think that this defense will give a kid like Blake Nicholson a chance to show his athleticism. He was kind of confined to the box or right on the very edge of the defense in 2024 in a 4-2-5 scheme. You can actually put him out in space against the slot in this defense, put him out in coverage, and he's one of the few kids at Florida State that excels and has the athletic ability and speed, along with Elijah Herring, to cover major college slots and major college tight ends. So I think we'll see some of that. The secondary, obviously, they feel like they need to add. They've added Jeremiah Wilson and possibly could add Jacoby Thomas. So we're going to bring in Kurt Weiler now. Kurt, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. I'm on the road in Atlanta, getting ready for a booster tour stop tomorrow night. But happy to be here. I was watching from remotely this morning.
All right. So what was your takeaways? What did you hear Mike say, and what when he said it? How did you interpret it? What stood out to you today?
Before you go, Kurt, the cavalry has come for me. I got to head back out some more to see if I can catch the kid. Thanks for having me on, Pat. Thanks for watching, everybody. I gotta catch on my horse.
You're catching kids.
Hey,
Who told you to catch kids?
Hey, Nick, be sure to tape up before you get down there, buddy.
Yeah. I'm actually walking pretty well now. I was walking like a pirate the other day. It felt like I was waddling and needed a peg leg.
Well, the good news is today you're chasing offensive linemen now, so it's much easier than chasing.
Oh yeah, no, I should be able to catch him up pretty good.
Yeah.
Should be able to catch him up pretty good. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, Nick. All right, Kurt. So, what did you hear? This is our famous "What He Said, What We Heard" segment. So, what did you hear Mike Norvell say, and how did you interpret what he said this afternoon or this morning?
Yeah, he said a good bit. I was interested. It was intriguing. He talked about, pretty candidly about kind of going back to his line. He talked about there weren't many things with the portal that we were unsurprised by. It was kind of the line he went back to. It was a line he used, I think, when the portal was opening. And I think as things went on, there were a few we actually were surprised by a few developments, but it was interesting. Him saying still not being surprised by kind of the wide receiver developments. I think Jordan Scott, not the most surprising, but obviously Jaylen Brown was a dismissal. It wasn't there was the court stuff that came up the night before. He pretty quickly was dismissed. And then I find it hard pressed. Like, he talked about the tough conversations. I find it hard pressed that he told Hakeem Williams there's not a spot for him. Like, I know Hakeem hasn't been what you thought he was, but he is a 2 years removed from being a 5-star recruit. And he was a 5-star recruit because of his potential that he could absolutely still realize.
I think he might have not been surprised by a guy like Aaron Hester jumping in the portal.
Yeah.
But I think they were all surprised that the wide receiver room shook out the way it did. Listen, we can go back and pull up his comments on Jordan Scott coming out of junior college. They thought he was, and that's one of the reasons they probably don't need to release statements on these kids every time they sign. There was no doubt they were planning on him being a factor. They evaluated that kid's tape. I don't think they can be anything but surprised at what's going on in the wide receiver room. You can't control something like Jaylen Brown. Kids are going to be kids. They're going to make mistakes. It's terrible that the kid made a mistake that cost him a scholarship at Florida State. Now, that was a surprise. But Hakeem, Jordan Scott, I think those surprised both of them. Because, listen, we can't sit here and say definitively that they've got two receivers better than Jordan Scott and Hakeem Williams on this roster because, number one, we haven't seen them, and number two, there's no proof to the contrary in what the other kids on the roster have done on the field. So, yeah, that one surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, and he talked about we got the initial comments the earlier day, but he talked about Jeremiah Wilson, the cornerback transfer from Houston, and he talked about Jalen King, the quarterback transfer from, was it Etsu? Was he from?
Yeah.
Etsu, right?
Jalen King.
Yeah, I think, the more I look at Jeremiah Wilson, the more I think I'm a big fan of that pickup. I think we've been high on the potential of that cornerback room, but adding a proven guy when they lost so many proven people, they lost 3 starters, I think really only helps them there. And then Jalen King, he talked pretty candidly, and it makes sense. I think that's a guy they want to redshirt. Sorry, I've got a dog who wants to speak up here.
We're good.
Yeah, but I think he's a guy they want a redshirt. When that kind of popped up, at first I wondered if they were keeping him at quarterback. It seems like they are keeping him at quarterback. So it's interesting development there of what he can. They just want to let him redshirt and see what happens. But
yeah, well, and Mike did say that. Yeah, and listen, he did say he's going to compete, but ideally for both parties, they would like to redshirt him. Obviously, they've gone through 3 quarterbacks each of the last 2 seasons, which you don't see a ton in college football, but we have seen it here at Florida State. Anything else, Kurt, that you kind of caught your attention that Mike had to say?
Yeah, he didn't really want to talk specifics of the portal and where they might be looking, although we've reported on some visits that are happening this week. All these coaches are just being kept in limbo, not knowing what he talked a little about we think it's going to be the 105 roster limit, but that's still not official. That'll come with the House settlement. That's still not official. And he talked about, we think that's still the plan, but there are alternatives and it's all still up in the air and there are uncertainties. And we all just need resolution on that front so coaches know what they're operating with for this fall.
Yeah, I agree. At some point, somebody's got to make a decision on where this sport is going and how it's going to be governed. And the longer this plays out, I think the interest that fans have in some of this offseason stuff is going away. Like you could make the free agency period a moneymaker like the NFL does if you have a defined period. There's a ton of content that comes on the NFL network and team websites of the NFL based off the free agency period. It's one period. You get in, you get out. I think that's what college football is going to have to do at some point. But this whole roster thing, and somebody's got to make a decision and get this thing under control. They need one governing body. It does not need to be governed by the NCAA. And listen, I think there's been a couple of college coaches alluded to it by, I believe, I can't remember who, earlier this week, one college coach who we would all know, and his name escapes me right now, said that he thought by 2031 there would be a super conference and there would be 50 to 70 teams and it would be real structure around it, and that's what the sport needs. All right, so Kurt, are you staying on for the baseball segment?
I am getting pulled a bunch of different ways today. Let me hop off and go get some work done.
All right, well, before you do that, I'm going to bring Eric on because I want to hear his thoughts. So I do want to talk about one other thing. We are now joined by Eric Llewellyn. And Eric, I want to get one take on football from you. We learned before we came on the show.
Hey, you didn't want the guy on who was chasing offensive linemen all day?
No. Nick might sprain his ankles talking about Jordan Travis because that's who we're fixing to start. That's who we're fixing to start talking about. All right, so about 43 minutes ago or an hour ago, it was announced that Jordan Travis has decided to retire from the NFL at age 24. The only thing I can say about Jordan Travis might be the biggest compliment I could ever give any one football player. Jordan Travis, and I put it in a tweet, and I'll share it with you guys. Jordan Travis was a warrior on the football field for FSU. He was an example of how the game should be played with maximum effort, no quit, heart, and determination. Played every snap like it was his last. It's how the game was meant to be played. That's all. To me, that's the biggest compliment you can give a football player. I saw a lot of guys play like that when my father coached at Florida State. It was the expectation. It was the rule, not the exception. In today's modern football, you don't see a lot of guys play with the reckless abandon that Jordan Travis did. And the heartbreaking thing is, at the end of the day, that injury is what's causing him to retire. But to Jordan's credit, it did not matter who he was playing that day. He was given everything he had. Now, and I'm sure there's going to be a part of him that will replay that night for the rest of his life. But listen, when you think Florida State, you think Warriors, and Jordan Travis was the ultimate Warrior. And I don't think I had fun watching that kid play football. Eric, I just want to get your thoughts. You're a former Florida State football player. You saw just about every game Jordan played in.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I saw that probably about 30 minutes ago, and a friend sent it to me. And it's unfortunate. I go back, obviously, before Jordan with the family. It's at least with Devin having played at Florida State from 2010 to 2012, and the first thing that popped into my head was, you've got two guys in that family now who have essentially lost out on pro careers due to injuries. Devin, certainly after the rookie year, he had their high expectations for what he could be as a pro back when he was with the Blue Jays, and then injuries kind of took him out. And now it's Jordan Travis not able to get on the field with the team that drafted him due to injuries, and having that bring his career to a close. It's really such an unfortunate thing. And not speaking about them as athletes, but speaking about them as people. It's so unfortunate. It's unfortunate to see it happen to anybody. It's unfortunate to see it happen to not just one kid, but two kids from that same family that are just salt of the earth, as good a people as you find out there. And that it breaks my heart for both of them.
Yeah. Kurt, what are your thoughts on Jordan? You saw every game the kid played.
Man, I mean, the beginning of my tweet, the guy quote tweeted his nose, just like, this sucks. Like, I mean, seeing it go end that way. I mean, I wrote a column the night of the injury, and at the time it was it's tragic to see his Florida State career end that way. But now, I mean, you say it's tragic to see his football career ended that way. I mean, I know you said decided to retire, and I mean, it seems like more he was told that he has to. And I know there was some reporting last year, I think, from his agent about like maybe the Jets tried to rush him back and it caused a setback in the rehab. But the fact is that was always going to be a tremendous rehab back from a really serious injury that he suffered. But I mean, he's going to go down in Florida State history. I mean, I wrote in that column of like, he never won a Heisman here. He didn't lead Florida State to a national title, but Florida State fans probably put him in that tier with those three who did win national titles and win Heisman's here. I mean, if not right below it. He is among the best quarterbacks to have ever played at Florida State, and I think a lot of people's in the conversation for favorite player, and deservedly so.
Well, and I just to expand on what you're saying there, Kurt, I don't disagree with anything you said. I think he definitely ranks way up there as far as quarterbacks go, but you throw on top of it, and I think this is where a lot of the fan sentiment comes from, not just on how good he was on the field, how he played, what he did in this program, but for him to come in, a guy who did not start his career at Florida State, to come from Louisville, to go through what he went through as a player at Florida State and look, a lot of kids had to go through that, but for him to go through, persevere, stick it out when the transfer portal was always an option for him, when he could have gotten into the transfer portal at some time and probably made a good bit of money too after NIL started, for him to stick it out and stay with Florida State. He's not a hired gun. He's not a guy that you look at and go, he just came to Florida State to win some football games, and then as soon as he leaves the campus, he forgets about it. That kid just bleeds garnet and gold, and I think all of those things factor into that fan sentiment for Jordan Travis.
He was about ready to give up football before Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham convinced him otherwise. Either give up football or consider a position change and be like, maybe I'm not a quarterback. But they were pretty adamant he was, and he became a dang good quarterback for them. And I mean, whatever Mike Norvell's tenure ends up being, I mean, if he's able to turn things around again, a lot of that will trace back to Jordan Travis. I mean, he was the biggest part of the turnaround. I
will imagine that by this time next week, Jordan Travis will be on the staff at either Florida State or Arizona State as a quality control or analyst. I would almost definitely once. Yeah. I think, listen, I think he'll be I think he'd be a great coach. But I do think that you will see him if he wants to continue on in football. I mean, he may have interest outside of athletics. I don't know him that well, but I would imagine if he wants to coach, that Mike's going to have a spot for him, or Kenny will have a spot for him as soon as he's ready to get started. So it would not surprise me if we saw him coaching somewhere this time next week, because kid does love football, and I think. I think he would be a great example on Florida State staff. I mean, he's got the proofs in the pudding. It's on his film does not lie, and they could put film after film on him, showing him how the game is supposed to be played. All right, Kurt, I know you got a lot to do. You're up in Atlanta for Mike Norvell's deal up there. Is that tonight?
Fine, get out of here, Kurt.
No, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right. Well, you sure you don't want to talk baseball?
I do, but I'll let Lulu carry the load for.
All right.
The sky is falling fan base right now, and I think D1 just named them number 3 national seed in their current projection. But the sky is falling.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad, but yeah, you're right. We all overreact. But hey, listen, it's the reason I didn't text Lulu on Monday. I am not going to bother him on Monday morning after Saturday afternoon in Louisville. But Lou, we appreciate you joining us, man. I would ask you how your trip to Louisville was, but I think I know the answer. Were you surprised by what happened at Louisville?
Surprised by losing 2 out of 3? No. Louisville's a good baseball team, no matter how you slice that. They're a team that's going to be in the mix when you start talking about hosts and things like that if they finish strong. So, not surprised to go on the road in a very tough place to play and lose 2 out of 3 to Louisville. Surprised about some of the things that happened within it. Yeah, probably. But, again, you go up there. Look, we saw Jamie Arnold was as good as you can really get Jamie Arnold out there. Joey Vellini pitched very well. Wes Mendez, after a rough first inning on Sunday, calmed down and pitched very well after that. So I still think there are some things to take from that and build off of. And there are some bad things that you want to learn from, and there will be some bad things from that you just flush and let leave your memory and don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
And I think obviously some of the good things, again, the starting pitching, maybe not the entirety of Wes Mendez's outing, but again, the way he was able to settle down, battle, and be effective and get you into the 6th inning after giving up 5 runs in the first was really unexpected. If you go back and you say he's going to give up 5, you're going to assume that he was going to be out of there pretty early and that you're really taxing the bullpen on that day. One of the things that hopefully they learned from was the stolen bases on Saturday when Louisville stole 14. I know a lot of the ire was directed towards one person, and it really was probably misplaced. I think it was more of an issue of time to the plate than a catcher not being able to throw guys out. You get over a certain time, pitcher throwing to the plate, delivery to the plate, you get over a certain time, and there's nothing a catcher is going to be able to do to throw a guy out. And I think that was where a lot of that came from as far as Florida State goes with Louisville on the base paths. And, that's something that there is a solution for it, but the guys are going to have to work on that. And it's not something that they don't focus on, don't work on, don't take care of. It's just something that maybe they needed a little, a nudge to go back to doing some things the way they've done them previously.
Yep.
And that's getting into that bullpen and varying your delivery, varying from when you set to when you actually deliver the pitch, your looks over, don't get into a rhythm and then shorten things up. And you don't necessarily have to shorten things up. You can have a combination where sometimes you shorten things up with your motion. Sometimes you vary the looks, and that throws guys off because then they can't get a good read on when they should take off. So you've got to do all of those things as a pitcher in order to help your catcher out when those guys want to run the bases. If that team sees a certain time to the plate, they're not going to take off. They're not going to try to take off and run. because they know, again, math tells them that they're not going to get there. If this pitcher is this time to the plate and the catcher's this time to second base, we don't have a shot at stealing something. So you've got to be able to do that. And you look out there on the field, our coaches have stopwatches. Everybody else's coaches have stopwatches. The time it takes for that pitcher to get to home plate is not a mystery for anybody. And Louisville took advantage of it. And that's something that they're going to have to shore up and take care of because you've got a team like Clemson coming in, and Clemson is another team that they will run the bases. It's not as much of their game as it was Louisville's, but they've got a couple of guys in there that can do some damage. So you've got basically a few days to work on that and get that squared away.
Yeah, but you mentioned Clemson 6th in the conference in stolen bases. I asked Bob because I didn't see the Saturday game. So you clearly don't think this is you clearly think this is something that they can improve upon, get rid of, and it's not going to end up being the Achilles heel. Because listen, I'm not trying to make light of the situation, because sometimes if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I've never heard of 14 bases being stolen in a college baseball game. I played a lot of baseball growing up until I got to 11th grade of high school. I don't recall ever seeing a game. I mean, and it's kind of like stealing bases. To me, it's kind of got that demoralizing feel, like a punt block or a field goal block. It's almost like a turnover, right? I mean, it gives the other team more momentum. Just out of sheer curiosity, have you ever witnessed a game where you've seen a team? I mean,
no. And the record against Florida State was 13, and that was set by Stetson back in the 70s.
Okay.
So it was long before you or I were watching Florida State baseball games when somebody last stole that many bases in a game, and it was one fewer than what Louisville did. But I do think, because of where that's coming from, I do think that's something that they can solve. But you've got to be the pitchers need to be mindful of it when they're doing their work outside of games, and then once they get into the game, they can't forget about it. Once they get out there and start. We had, I want to say it was Miami, had a game where they stole, 6 or 7 bases. And I think we got better from that point on until this weekend. And it's almost like, guys kind of went back to a bad habit or something, for lack of better terminology there. So I think a renewed focus on something like that is something that certainly can nip that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I knew you guys had weather up there on Friday, so when I actually saw the 14 bases stolen on Saturday, I just assumed it was 2 games, and, double hitter. But yeah, listen, that was interesting. Of course, now listen, I think that on Sunday, Louisville was just hot, right? I mean, their bats were, everything they hit, the wind was blowing out to left center, and the ball just carried. It seemed like they were just tattooing it. And so to me, Lou, that's one of those games that you just say, hey, it wasn't our day. It's baseball. It was a bad day for us. We'll recover from this type of thing.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with you. And with Saturday, the part of Saturday that stings is you have a 4-0 lead in that game and you give it up and lose 9-4. That's where that kind of hurts. And it all happened literally in 2 innings. So I think that's the real disappointing part is you had the second game, the game that you can win the series with in your grasp, in control, and just couldn't finish it off. And I think that's the part that stings the most about it. But I don't walk out of that Louisville series feeling like, oh, doom and gloom and everything's awful. I think there are things that went on that are part of baseball, and there are things that went on that you can work on and fix, and you just go from there and you strap up and get out there and play again this weekend against a good Clemson team.
Yeah, and you got a good Clemson team. They're 5th place, 36-10 overall, 13-8 coming in the ACC play. I know you put out some stats earlier. I know their RPI is almost as high as their ranking in the conference. Nothing as you're probably more. I'd look at kind of the broad-based stats, but there's nothing that really blows you away. I mean, they're 12th in team batting average in the ACC. second in most strikeouts, but they're also like third in most home runs. So they're kind of what is the strength of this team, and what does Florida State need to do well in order to get 2 out of 3 in this series and kind of, for lack of a better term, right the ship?
Well, I think one of the things with Clemson is it's a team that has gotten slowed a bit by injuries this year. They've had a lot of injuries. Their pitching staff, Florida State's had their share too, with Evan Kress going down for the season. A guy who was obviously going to play a pretty key role in this staff. But you look at Clemson, and they're kind of scrambling a little bit as far as their starting pitching goes. Aiden Canuck is the guy that probably will go on Friday. He got roughed up a little bit this past weekend in their series against NC State, but he's been very good all year. They have been without a freshman by the name of Talon Bell, who was a very highly touted recruit. He was coming off of an injury, and he's just been very, very limited. They've been treating him with kid gloves, and he's been doing midweek starting duties. So that's one guy that really could have been a big contributor. They had another guy very highly rated who was coming off of Tommy John, just not able to play this year. So that's another arm that they felt like was going to be a key arm for them that they just haven't been able to get out there, or just won't be able to get out there at all. Ethan Darden, who was another member of their weekend rotation, hasn't pitched now. His last outing was April 12th. So I assume that there's some kind of injury there. And you go back to last weekend, they went with Canuck on Friday and then started Drew Titsworth on Saturday. And that was only his second start of the season. He has 13 appearances out of the bullpen. And he pitched very well in his first start through, I think, 6 shutout innings against Louisville 2 weeks ago, and then gave up 4 runs in 4 innings this past weekend against NC State. And then they went with a guy, BJ Bailey, on Sunday, who they announced at the last minute. He wasn't announced going into the series, but they went with him. And he's another guy that's been a reliever for them for the most part this season, with 9 relief appearances and 4 starts now. So they're kind of trying to piecemeal the starting piece of that together. But again, it's a really talented team. You look at the guy at the top of that lineup for them, Cam Canarella, is kind of he's their firecracker. He's their guy that they all kind of rally around. 3-year starter for him. He's going to be drafted pretty highly come July. Jaron Purify is another one who's having an outstanding season. He's one of those guys that you really have to worry about on the base paths. He's got 22 steals and 26 tries on the season. So they've got some very good pieces to that team. Again, I think pitching has kind of thrown them for a little bit of a loop. But the other thing, too, you've got to be mindful of game management along the way, because if you get into the later innings against them, they can be very tough. Lucas Malstadt is their closer. He's got 15 saves on the season, and he's a guy that they will use 1, 2, 3 innings if they need to. So you can't sit back and say we'll come back on him late, because Malstadt's a very good pitcher, and nobody's really been able to do that to him this year.
Yeah, he's given up less than a hit an inning and a 1.29 ERA. So, yeah, he's you mentioned Canarella, 14 doubles, leads the team, 48 hits, and then Colin Priest leads them in home runs with 10 and RBIs with 40. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend in Tallahassee. What time is the first game on Friday night?
6 o'clock on Friday night, then 6 o'clock Saturday, and 1 o'clock on Sunday.
All right. Well, the good news is we don't have to worry about them being televised, because obviously they're at home and we can all make it out there. It should be a great weekend for baseball. Have you checked the weather, Lou? Have you looked at that? Have you checked the forecast for this weekend yet? I think it's supposed to be beautiful.
I haven't gotten that far into the weekend to look at that yet.
Well, so what is there any chance that Florida State would not get a regional no matter what happens the rest of the year?
Well, sure. I mean, if you're Florida State, you've got 10 games left. You're sitting at 31 wins right now. You could, if you come out and fall on your face the last 10 games, that you might be able to play yourself out of it. The one thing that I think with regards to where this team stands right now, they're not chasing anything. And by that, I mean, they are in a position where they can go out and take care of business and not worry about what everybody else around them is doing to try to get where they want to be. And right now they're second in the conference. There's a new conference tournament format this year. The top 4 seeds were important for tiebreak reasons in the old format. Now they're important because if you're in the top 4, if you're one of the top 4 seeds, you get 2 byes. You get a double bye. You're into the quarterfinals, and it's single elimination. So if you lose one game, you go home. Okay. But if you win your quarterfinal, you're into the semifinal. If you win that, you're into the final. So you can win the tournament in 3 games.
Okay.
The 9 to 16 seeds, they're going to have to win 5 games if they want to get all the way through and win it. Again, single elimination for them. They've got to play 2 more games. So it's going to be very, very tough to, as a 9 to 16 seed, to play against somebody who has played 3 games when you're playing your 5th game and win that game. The 5 to 8 seeds, they get a single bye, so they're into the second round. So again, a little bit of an advantage against 9 to 16, disadvantage against 1 and 4. So being one of the top 4 seeds is a big deal from that standpoint. But even bigger picture is it's a big deal because of how they're going to look and evaluate at teams when it comes to the postseason. Okay. So if you want to be a host, if you want to be one of the 16 host clubs, you probably can't get there as a 9 seed in the ACC.
Okay.
You're probably not going to get a host site no matter what your overall record is. If you're a 9 seed, you're probably not hosting. You're probably on the road. And there are some projections that have 9 to 10 teams in the conference getting in. Okay. If you're one of those top 4 seeds, you're pretty much with how all of what that looks like from a standpoint of everybody's records and RPIs and all of that, you're probably going to get a host bid, and you've got a very good argument to be one of those, if not top 8 national seeds, one of the top 16 seeds in hosting. So that's another reason why being one of those top 4 teams is a fairly big deal. Again, 16 host sites in the postseason. How many of those are going to come from the SEC? How many of those are going to come from the ACC? And then how many are going to come from the rest of the field? Because the SEC and ACC are probably going to lead that particular metric of total number of teams hosting.
Yeah.
So you need to be near the top of the pecking order when it comes to your conference when they start handing out those host sites, because you don't want to have an argument start in the room of, okay, we think this team over here can host, but we think this team over here can host, even though they were the 8th seed in the ACC in their own conference.
Yeah.
That's where it gets a little tough to make that argument work. So right now, Florida State's in second. Go out, take care of business against Clemson, take care of business against Cal, take care of business against North Carolina. I don't want to forget about Jacksonville, but that doesn't play into the conference record. Right. Just saying, in those conference games, go out and take care of business, and you're one of the top 4 seeds. So you are in that position. You don't need help from anybody else. And I think that's where obviously everybody at Florida State would like to land higher up than 3 or 4, but certainly you'll take anywhere in those top 4 spots.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I'm glad you talked about that, because that's kind of what the guys on television Sunday alluded to. They felt like, and they were talking about Louisville, obviously, because Florida State went into the weekend with the highest winning percentage in the conference. They were talking about the fact that Louisville was trying to get into the one of the top 4 spots in the ACC rankings, because they felt like FSU, the ACC would likely get 4 regionals. So yeah, all right. That's good to hear. All right. So Lou, everybody else has got a take on it. Did you watch any of the draft? And if you didn't get to watch it, God bless you.
I watched a total of 0 minutes of the draft.
You are such a. All right. So I'm not even going to ask you about everyone else has got an opinion on Shedeur Sanders and Deion. I was going to ask you, obviously, because you know Deion. But anyway, I'm happy for you. You missed all of it. The only thing I've said, it was the greatest thing that happened to ESPN and NFL Network draft coverage. I said, listen, there's no telling how many people tuned in on Saturday because Shedeur was still in the draft room. Somebody put out a stat about it yesterday. 40% increase in Saturday viewership for over one kid. But anyway, everyone else got an opinion on it. I just wanted to see if you did. All right.
Yeah, I literally watched none of it.
You're my hero. I watched way too much.
I found out a couple of the FSU guys who got drafted. I found out because the athletic director was sitting next to me in the radio booth and was showing me when guys were getting drafted. So that's how I found out about the FSU guys who got drafted, at least while we were playing. Anyway,
you need to give Mike a headset. Let offer to be your play-by-play. You can do the color, or vice versa. That'd be fun. Or at least that'd be a good time. All right, Lou. Well, listen, I know you got a lot to do. We appreciate you joining us, and hope we can have you back next week. And obviously, if you're not in the game, tune in on the radio and listen.
Well, Wednesday's travel day to Cal next week, so if we do it, it'll have to be before Wednesday because
maybe we have you hop in on Monday.
I'll have lots of time in an airplane. Flying out to the other coast on Wednesday. So.
Well, you know what? We've never had a guest show up live on a plane. That might be fun.
I don't think you'd be able to hear me.
If you had earbuds on,
but you'd still get all the noise from the airplane coming in the microphone. So I don't know that.
Yeah, I have seen it done once before, but maybe you're right. Well, maybe we'll try to get. I tell you what, we'll see how the series goes. I'll take.
Plus, we'd be relying on airplane Wi-Fi.
That is true. All right, Lou, well, have a great week, man. We appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you next week, bud.
All right, Pat. Sounds good.
Thank you. All right. Well, if you're have not subscribed to the Osceola, please go to theosceola.com to check out all our coverage. If you joined us late, Nick Carlisle joined me earlier. You can go back and listen to it or watch it on the Osceola podcast or YouTube show. We talked a little bit about what's going on in the portal with Florida State, what Mike Norvell had to say at his post-spring press conference, and got into a little bit of Jordan Travis retiring from the NFL after one season with the Jets. And obviously Jordan was one of the fan favorites in his time at Florida State and had as big an impact on Florida State's turnaround under Mike Norvell as any one person that has entered the Moore building over the last 4 or 5 years. But we will be back on Friday with Seminole Sidelines. We'll talk a little bit more about the portal, what Florida State has going on there, and then we will start breaking down the 2025 team by position after the spring. Talk a little bit about what we think about each position group on the football team. But if you have not subscribed to the Osceola, please go to theosceola.com. We have a special going right now. 1 month membership gets you 3 months free, and you get all our preseason coverage, all our summer recruiting coverage, and all our spring portal coverage. So check us out. If you're not subscribing to the Osceola YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button before you leave and hit the notification button so that you get notifications when we go live with these shows or even when they're taped. But we appreciate you joining us, and I hope everybody has a great Wednesday night. We will see you on Friday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Take care.